my mom. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Good. Thank you all for being here. I know there is an important game today, so I appreciate those. I don't know what game it is, but they say it's important. I'm surprised I didn't see more red in the crowd. So a couple of things I'd like to mention first. That first piece, Astorius, it's probably one of the most widely recognized pieces in classical guitar literature, written by Isaac Albéniz, and there's so many stories within the classical world, and you read about it online. You don't know what's true, you don't know what's not true, but some of them are funny, and some of them not. But this was added to his Suite Española after he had died. I don't remember the full story when he wrote it and all that, but he was a very prolific writer. He took Spanish folk music and brought it to the forefront in classical music. He was very good friends with a lot of other composers at the time. It's kind of neat. All the composers really talked and worked a lot together. It was really nice. The second piece was variations on a theme from the aria to the Magic Flute by Mozart. It was written by Fernando Sor. Probably, along with Tárrega, one of the most prolific writers for classical guitar literature. And Mozart was Sor's favorite composer. And he did so much, Sor did so many compositions, and his whole point was to make the guitar as an orchestral instrument, not just rhythmic. So the next two pieces, Capriccio Rabbe, are by Francisco Tárrega, who has a very interesting character in of himself. It's kind of funny how us guitarists have rather interesting characteristics. Story behind Tárrega is that his father did not want him to play guitar. His father was a flamenco guitarist, and his father would hide the guitar when he would go to work in various places. And it's always, Francisco would always find it. He'd pull it out, and he would mimic what he heard his father playing earlier. And his mother taught him for a while, and then his dad, of course he got in trouble with his father, he ran away 3 times. And each time Tárrega ran away, he started playing in the bands of gypsies. Finally, the 3rd time, his father said, heck with it, we put him into school. And he was studying violin, if I remember correctly, but predominantly piano. And he brought his guitar with him. His instructors heard him playing it and said, you need to focus on guitar. Forget the piano and write for the guitar. And thank goodness the composer had enough open-mindedness at that time to do that, because what Targa did for the guitar literature is just phenomenal. It really is. And a lot of our modern technique, just something as simple as using this third finger to pluck strings with, is Targa. So, but I just get a kick out of the way he was had run away 3 times. It's one way to get to music school. I want to point out that I'm glad to be here. I've been with this parish as far as their concert series for well over a decade now. And some of you folks, I see you each year, and of course we missed a few years there in between. And it's very nice to be back. And I think I did 2 or 3 concerts since the last time that I was supposed to play here. In fact, so this is my return to concertizing, if you would, because those last 2 concerts weren't as playing for benefits and not something like this. So I'm very grateful to be back here, and I'm grateful to see all of you, and I'll get back to playing. It's easier to stand and read this and try and shout. My apologies for that last piece. I think I'm 57. I think it's time to start looking at glasses. I hate to admit it. I really do. And this is a relatively new guitar, too. I think it's the second time I've used it in a concert, so it's a smaller scale. My apologies. So I played Jorge Morel, Brazilian Dance, is Argentinian guitarist and composer Jorge Morel's most famous piece. It is a lively tempo with a samba feel, and there's also elements of a churro found in there. He began his musical career in his native country of Argentina, and his father taught him the rudiments of classical guitar at the age 7. He went on to study advanced guitar at the academy locally in Buenos Aires. Later on, moved to New York City and started performing with such jazz legends as Errol Garner, Stan Kenton, Herbie Mann, and others. At that time, he met Chet Atkins and established what was to become a lifelong friendship. Morel's ability to blend the love for Latin American rhythm textures with sophisticated jazz harmonies permeates throughout all of his work. And you can hear it in other things. The other one there that I somewhat played, I was looking forward to that one too. It's Astor Piazzolla. At the age of 4, he moved with his family from Argentina to New York City. This guy was a very interesting character. He played the bandoneon as a child, and that's what he studied. And he was playing with some very big bands. And Carlos Gardel, in fact, when he was, I think, 11 years old, Carlos Gardel invited him to go on tour with him. And his father wouldn't let him. Turns out to be a good thing, because unfortunately, that tour is where Carlos Gardel and the rest of his band perished in a plane crash. And Astor used to say if it wasn't for his father, he'd probably be playing the harp instead. So he had a sense of humor. He spoke 4 languages very fluently, and he is responsible for a lot of the modern tango feel that we have now, the Astor Piazzolla. And that Adios No Niño literally translates to Farewell Granddaddy. It's a composition written in October '59 while Astor was in New York. It's in memory of his father, Vicente, and it was written a few days after his father's death. So the next guy is a really interesting cat, Baden Powell. Rio de Janeiro, he's from there, and came over to the States. And his big thing was to combine Afro-Cuban rhythms with Brazilian rhythms. And this guy was a wild character on stage. When he would perform, he would just be up on a stage by himself, usually a cigarette burning and an ashtray. This is in the 1950s. You can find it on TV or YouTube. It's very interesting. He's just intensely playing. And he'd stop, have a cigarette, then he'd go back to intense playing. And just a very crazy guy, but he's very well respected in the jazz community as well, and bringing bossa nova to the forefront. So this piece here, O Astornata, is literally just that. Has nothing really significant meaning in the title of the piece, just come on. Quick question for everybody. Excuse me. Not used to the mic. How many of you were here last Sunday? All right, so you'll recognize this piece. Don't spoil the surprise. Sing along if you want to. No, just kidding. So the last two that I played, the first one was Preludio de Adios, and that was written by Alfonso Montes. He wrote that as a pensive piece when he was departing his native Venezuela. He knew he was not going to be coming back, and so he sat down and he wrote that. Another very prolific figure in the fusion of Latin American elements along with jazz and European tenets. Last piece, Venezuelan Waltz Number 3, Natalia. The name Natalia is named after his daughter. There's a lot of speculation with Antonio Lauro. He had dozens and dozens of nieces, and apparently they were very gifted in composing music. Who knows if this is true or not, but it is kind of comical. Evidently, they wrote a lot of his work. That's how they got some of the names. I don't know, but I do know Natalia was written for his daughter. The last two pieces that I want to play are flamenco pieces, and that's the reason for the change of the guitar. The flamenco guitar compared to a classical guitar, much thinner wood, it projects louder. This one was built for me in, 2004. And at the time, I was teaching over at the College of Marin in Kentfield, and the gentleman who built this, Christopher Burkhoff, was living over there. He had just moved his shop over there. So every time I went over there to teach a course, I would stop at his shop and see the next stage of the development. It was really neat to see it, the wood being shaped, and then you have to wait a certain density of humidity in order to have the guitar put together. So it was very, very cool. It's a little long in the tooth now, but it still works. I have many people who want to take it off my hands, and I just can't part with it for that reason. Too many memories. So I'll be playing a Solia, which is very slow, very solemn. It's the, how do I say that? It represents loneliness, a little heavier than that in Spanish flamenco, but we don't need to get heavier than that on a nice day, especially when there's a game coming. Which, it's almost on. And then the second one is a flamenco. This is one, the rhythm is from Cuba, so it's not a traditional Spanish flamenco rhythm, but it's used a lot in popular music, Gypsy Kings. I can't remember some of the other popular flamenco artists back in the 70s and 80s. Carmen Amaya, that's the other one. It's just very recognizable to us here in the States because it's in 4/4. It's a simple chord progression, and it's very upbeat, and it's lively, and it's nice to hear. So I'm going to end with that one. And so we have Solia and then Rumba, and I thank you.